So what I wanted to talk about, there's been a kind of a renaissance, if you like, in kirtan or mantra
Yeah.
meditation and kirtan, devotional kind of music. I wanted to ask you about the idea of presentation
Mm-hmm.
and purity.
Mm.
Those two forces or two aspects to it, because when you're presenting something to a bigger, wider audience, there is definitely an element of translation and, the way in which you explain it to people, which
Mm-hmm.
is more relevant to the modern times and how they can understand it. And so, like we talked earlier, like we may have always said Krishna consciousness in the past, and now we might say Bhakti tradition or things like that. So that is important for sure. But then there's also that understanding that there needs to be a kind of a substance or a grounded rootedness in the music too. It's not just a performance, if you like.
Right.
So yeah, would you like to share some thoughts on those two aspects, presentation and also maybe how you may have a viewpoint on them now, but has there been a bit of a journey for you around those two things and how you've navigated it?
Well, to the last point, I would say yes, definitely. It's been a journey, and although I grew up, as I said, I studied dance, and I haven't really spoken much about that, but that was actually usually my main outlet for performance. And as I said, I didn't really perform music when I was younger. I just played. So dance was a context that I was accustomed to performing, to being on a stage, but music wasn't. And this particular genre of music, kirtan, it's prayer. It's a type of prayer, and so the concept is that you shouldn't be trying to put on a show. That there very much has to be an authenticity to the performer, so to speak, coming from a state of prayer themselves as they engage in that. So yeah, as we started to do this tour, it was a really radical experience for me, because it was the first time that I was really exposed in my life to people in a more mainstream world who were interested in mantras, who were interested in chanting and yoga. And it was really, it's not that kirtan wasn't already taking off, but we embarked on this tour, I think, in a particular moment where it was really swelling. And that said, it was, in North America, where there's always been, I mean, they sort of started earlier than other places in the Western world in terms of people's interest in yoga. And also just the nature of America is sort of like, when people get into something, they tend to want to do it big and do it, So it was, we were coming to these different yoga studios and festivals where I was seeing so many people really invested in the experience and eager to have that experience, yet perhaps not having that much of a background with the culture, with the tradition. So there was always that understanding that we need to both sort of, I hesitate to say entertain, because I don't think we were trying to entertain as a means of attracting people to experience and engage with this traditional practice, but also it was of prime importance to us that we present something authentic for us, and that people could experience the authentic tradition also. And I'd say it's a fine line to kind of hold the tension between those two things.
I wonder if you can relate to what Jahnavi's sharing here, whether it's because you actually personally perform devotional music, or if it's just something in your work or in your life where you have to balance two tensions. I'd love for you to share them in the comments below. If you'd like to hear the whole conversation with Jahnavi, please listen on Apple Podcasts or Spotify or a whole range of other platforms. I'll have the link down below. If you're enjoying the podcast, please leave us a rating and write us a review. It's so encouraging to read them. See you in the next podcast. In the meantime, have a great week.